Sorry, guys. Here we go. Sorry, I slept. Sorry, guys.
They lie so much. My church, my religion lies so much, and it's proven in this grand jury report.
Survivors of alleged sexual abuse by Catholic priests are speaking out after a grand jury report exposes what could be the biggest cover-up in the church's history.
A trove of documents containing allegations and admissions of sexual abuse was kept locked up in what the church calls its secret archives, with the only key in the bishop's hands.
The cover-up made it impossible to achieve justice for the victims.
Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro laid out a pattern of consistent, decades-long cover-up across the 6 dioceses. The files contain strategies that were practically a playbook for concealing the truth. Among the tactics for church record-keeping, use euphemisms, never say rape, say inappropriate contact or boundary issues. Even if a priest is raping children, keep providing housing and living expenses. Above all, don't tell the police. Handle it like a personnel matter in-house. As church officials protected predator priests, careers continued to rise.
Many have been promoted. Bishop Wuerl is now Cardinal Wuerl.
Washington, D.C. Archbishop Cardinal Donald Wuerl presided over 32 accused priests during his 18 years at the Pittsburgh Diocese. He sat down with us the night before the report's release.
During my tenure, we acted very appropriately with many times removal from ministry, totally and completely.
But according to the grand jury, in 1991, Wuerl reassigned an accused priest, Ernest Payon, to the Reno Diocese. In 1995, he returned George Zerwas, a member of a pedophile ring, to ministry. Victims filed a lawsuit against you and a few others, saying you were conspiring to cover up the abuse. Any truth to that during your time in Pennsylvania?
I would have to say that's just totally false.
For the victims here today,
Really?
Pennsylvania's statute of limitations makes their cases too old to be prosecuted. Would an elimination of the statute of limitations be justice for the victims?
There should be no statute of limitations to bring criminal charges in Pennsylvania when it comes to child sexual abuse.
The majority of the named priests are dead. Still, as a result of the investigation, 2 priests have been criminally charged, including one who has pled guilty. This is the priest you say abused you.
Yes.
John Doherty was molested by his family priest for 2 years, beginning at age 10. Is this report enough vindication, or are you fighting to change laws?
This report is just the beginning battle of the overall war.
It's about the hierarchy who aided and abetted these known perpetrators, who protected the institution, the assets, the reputation versus its own children.
We're very concerned that consumers are eating more glyphosate than they know.
Scott Faber has been working to improve food safety standards for more than a decade. He says the team at the Nonprofit Environmental Working Group, or EWG, had a lab test 45 samples of products made with conventionally grown oats and found glyphosate, the active ingredient in the Monsanto weed killer Roundup, in all but 2.
I was shocked.
Dr. Jennifer Lowry heads the Council on Environmental Health for the American Academy of Pediatrics.
We don't know a lot about the effects of glyphosate on children, and essentially we're just throwing it at them.
EWG used its own, more stringent standards to conclude that products with excessive levels of the herbicide included Quaker Old-Fashioned Oats, Cheerios, Quaker Dinosaur Egg Instant Oats, Great Value Instant Oats, and Back to Nature Classic Granola Clusters. Glyphosate was even found in a few organic products. The World Health Organization says glyphosate is a probable carcinogen. The state of California lists it as a chemical known to the state to cause cancer. Monsanto disputes that, saying in a statement glyphosate does not cause cancer and has a more than 40-year history of safe use.
Did Monsanto fail to adequately warn of the potential risks? Answer, yes.
But last week, a jury in California ordered Monsanto to pay one man $289 million in damages after he claimed the company's glyphosate weed killers caused his cancer.
Fuck.
And EWG's favor is skeptical of EPA's glyphosate limits.
We don't think it does enough in particular to protect children.
It is time now for them to step up and do their jobs to ban glyphosate.
Zen Honeycutt heads Moms Across America, a group formed to raise awareness about toxic exposures. Her family switched to an organic-only
Isn't
diet
this something
after
that
her
the
3
right
sons
and the
developed
left should be able to
allergies
come
and other health problems.
come
We want to
together
trust
with?
that what is in the grocery store is safe. And the shocking reality is that in many cases it's not.
This 87-year-old grandmother who doesn't speak English and needs help getting upstairs
This is what our
is
world's
charged
coming
this
to.
morning with criminal trespass and obstruction of an officer.
She's outside. There's no kids around her. She told me she doesn't speak English and keeps walking up that trail with a knife.
A worker at a Boys and Girls Club in Chatsworth, Georgia, called police Monday after seeing her walking with a knife in a field on their property. It turns out she lives across the street and is from Syria. It was a steak knife, and she was there picking dandelions, which her family explains was meant for a salad for her husband. Police say she even had a bag full of cut weeds. Even the worker who called 911 said she wasn't threatening.
But she came out at someone with a knife, though, right? Or did she just have it?
Hang the knife onto the property in her hand.
Okay.
She didn't try and attack anybody.
Idiots.
Police arrived with guns drawn, telling her to put down the knife, but say she wouldn't. They say they even threw a knife to the ground, trying to explain what they wanted her to do. When she kept walking towards them, they shot her with a stun gun.
My
the police
God.
chief was there during the incident.
Deployed the taser rather than using deadly force.
He says his officer acted appropriately. Her family says at her age, the shock could have killed her.
She's recovering, still a little shook up, a little sore from what she's, gone through.
And there's one thing we should add about that young man who is speaking out for the family, Robin. He is the nephew of this woman, and he's a former police officer.
Tonight, a New Mexico judge facing threats after granting bail for 5 suspects accused of child abuse on a remote New Mexico compound.
The state alleges that there was a big plan afoot, but the state hasn't shown, to my satisfaction, by clear and convincing evidence, what in fact that plan was.
The judge saying the government failed to articulate any specific threat to public safety. It comes after prosecutors offered disturbing new details about the death of 3-year-old Abdul Wahaj, allegedly kidnapped by his father. The FBI testifying that another child told them the boy died during a religious ritual performed, his body found in a tunnel.
The rituals were to expel demons. Everyone at the compound prayed to Abdul's body, and the children were told that Abdul would be resurrected and come back as Jesus.
Their alleged goal, according to prosecutors, to get Jesus to direct the children to attack banks and schools. Now this morning, word that one of the suspects, 35-year-old Janie
What is wrong
LeVay, is
with
now
our
in the
fucking
custody
reality?
of immigration officials.
The Environmental Protection Agency is being urged to take action on toxic chemicals found in some drinking water. The chemicals are known as PFAs, and studies found that these chemicals are more dangerous than previously thought. PFAs are used in anything from carpets and firefighting foam to fast food wrappers. The Trump administration has called the contamination a public relations nightmare. What are the possible health impacts of these chemicals in drinking water?
Well, there's a variety of effects. We're worried about cancer effects. It can interfere with some of the hormones that we have, and there are certain other diseases that have been linked to these toxic chemicals that we're now finding in millions of people's drinking water.
EPA testing from 2013 to 2015 found significant amounts of PFAs in public water in 33 states. How much of the drinking water in the U.S., though, do you think is contaminated? Is this isolated or is this widespread?
Well, we wish it was isolated, but a study that was done by some Harvard University researchers recently found that over 6 million people are served by water systems that have this stuff at levels above what EPA says are safe. And in fact, now it's looking like the EPA numbers are too high, and we should be saying that safe levels are even lower than what EPA originally was saying was okay.
Just when you thought the airport had gone full Orwellian, federal air marshals are now following unsuspecting average U.S. citizens, whether they are suspected of a crime or on a terrorist watch list, monitoring their behavior under yet another domestic surveillance program. Boston Globe reports the previously undisclosed program, Quiet Skies, relies on 15 rules to screen passengers, according to a May agency bulletin, and the criteria appear broad. Rules may target people whose travel patterns or behaviors match those of known or suspected terrorists or people possibly affiliated with someone on a watch list.
The program has been in existence since 2010. In a statement to CBS News, TSA said in part, quote, "The primary purpose of this program is to ensure passengers and flight crew are protected during air travel. With routine reviews and active management via legal, privacy, and civil rights and liberties offices, it is a practical method of keeping another act of terrorism from occurring at 30,000 feet."
Back in 2015, TSA failed security tests involving fake bombs and weapons by 95%. 67 of 70 tests failed. In 2017, TSA celebrated an 80% failure rate, where 16 out of 17 tests failed. All of these stats culled by beloved mainstream propaganda outlets NBC, ABC, and CBS. Obviously, the TSA is a complete failure and has been the ire of our Bill of Rights for years. And now they want to expand and run a behavior profile on random citizens regardless of the myriad of rights afforded U.S. citizens. Rights they are criminally ignoring. The Quiet Skies checklist asks questions like, was the subject observing the gate? Did they change directions? Did they board last? Did they sleep during the flight? Every single person that has ever flown has done at least one of those things. Once you fit the profile, a team of air marshals boards your flight to watch you, and they are given documents about your identity. We can all thank TSA Administrator David Pekoski for violating our fundamental rights and raising the bar on the TSA's Orwellian nightmare fantasy that is now a reality.
This guy is the man. Right. Sorry about that. But yes, definitely check him out. Alright. Are you ready?
Mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
Definitely advised. Just doing.
Library here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, recently hosted an event called Drag Queen Story Hour, and we witnessed parents taking their children as young as 2 inside to take part. Drag Queen Story Hour is advertised as an event that captures the imagination and play of childhood and gives kids glamorous, positive, and diverse role models. It is all part of a national initiative with more than 20 chapters across the country. Last summer, the Boston Public Library allowed drag queens dressed as Catholic nuns called the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence to read to kids. At another, a man dressed in drag encouraged a young child to become a drag queen.
I would like to be a superhero.
Yeah, you could be a drag queen superhero. Elizabeth Johnston, also known as the activist mommy, calls the issue surrounding gender confusion gender insanity.
Moms and daughters transitioning to the opposite sex together. We've got guys going into girls' locker rooms and bathrooms, and drag queens are reading stories to children in public libraries, thereby normalizing this behavior of men dressing up in high heels, a wig, a bra, and copious amounts of makeup. Whatever happened to puppet shows and craft day at the library?
More than 20 parents brought kids ages 2 to 8 to a Virginia Beach story hour, where Gillette Black, who was openly gay, dressed as a mermaid and read 3 books as part of an Under the Sea theme. Black wants to be a positive role model and says reading in drag makes it more fun for the kids.
Just to give them something extra to look forward to, the makeup, the glitter, it's going to keep them more in tune and
to what?
Willing to listen and pay attention. They were all accepting. They all were happy about it and excited and giving me hugs and everything.
Library officials say the program highlights a need in its community.
The library has a strategic plan, and one of our big parts of our plan is inclusion and diversity. So we offer about 8,000 programs for children and adults a year, and we just wanted to make sure we cover a wide variety of interests and speak to all members of our community. So this program fell into that strategic action item.
But outraged residents argue the program will harm kids.
I think it's really unfortunate that our city isn't going to, they're here to protect and keep us safe, and I'm not sure they're doing that for all the population, especially the children. Here they're going to get exposed to something that they're really not sure about and be confused.
And it doesn't stop there. Netflix plans to debut a gay-themed superhero show featuring cross-dressers called Super Drags. The activist mommy describes today's culture movements as an embarrassing moment in our nation's history.
We have become so open-minded that our brains are falling out. Truth and reality and science really mean nothing to the left. People are fighting their true biological identity, and Hollywood and the media are trying to pressure us to celebrate this.
2 more Drag Queen Story Hour events are planned for this Virginia Beach library in August and September.
Sheriff's deputies in New Mexico rescued 11 children and found a child's body at a makeshift compound that was raided over the weekend.
The parents of the 11 kids, who authorities describe as Muslim extremists, in custody today as officials continue to investigate whether the kids were being trained to carry out school shootings. Those children now in foster care and under the protection of the state.
This is an extraordinary case.
At the bond hearing for Siraj Ibn Wahaj and 4 others, prosecutors presented a disturbing update about his son, 3-year-old Abdul Ghani, whose body was found buried in this apocalyptic-looking compound authorities raided last week. Other children found there told investigators the boy died during a religious ritual.
Some of the children have stated that these rituals were intended to cast out demonic spirits from Abdul Ghani's body. All 5 defendants knew about these rituals.
The children also said they were instructed how to use firearms and how to clear rooms in case police came to the compound. One child was armed when police arrived.
There was somebody trying to break into the house, lots of people crying.
Police are piecing together a violent and bizarre crime scene in this Aurora, Colorado neighborhood.
He grabbed the 11-year-old child and dragged the child into the bathroom. I'm not going to go into the graphic details of what happened in the bathroom other than to say that that child was violently assaulted.
73-year-old Vietnam veteran Richard Gary Black was trying to protect his grandson from a naked and seemingly crazed intruder, identified as 26-year-old Dejan Harper.
13 calls, shots fired.
Black had killed Harper as officers burst in.
They see Mr. Black emerge into the officer's view. For the next 13 seconds, officers continue to give at least 5 commands to Mr. Black to drop the gun and to show his hands. We don't know why, but for whatever reason, Mr. Black did not drop the gun.
That's when officers fired 4 rounds on Black, killing the wrong man. During his service in Vietnam, he was awarded many medals, including the Purple Heart and Bronze Star.
Mr. Black saved his family's life that night, in particular his young grandson. We remain heartbroken over this situation.
The officer who killed Black was also a military veteran, and Jeff, it turns out he was involved in another shooting a month ago. The police chief says his department is now receiving death threats.
It's what some believe to be an old school way to make a statement.
You just write a letter to the editor, and he might put it in the newspaper.
But for Julianne Spire, it happened. The 12-year-old girl tells me she was marching with her Girl Scout troop during Chesterland's 4th of July parade, right behind the Boy Scouts, when the announcer made comments she didn't like.
The announcer says, "Here comes the future leaders of America, and look behind them. There's the Girl Scouts. They look like they sure are having fun." And that didn't seem fair, because girls can be anything that we want.
Julianne tells me she and her friends were offended, so at a friend's suggestion, she wrote the letter.
I would appreciate it if you would help me to let other people know how much this kind of thing happens and how bad it is. I feel it is an insult to both girls and women of all ages.
I reached out to one of the organizers of the parade, and she would not confirm or deny what was said, but in a statement wrote, quote, "There was an unfortunate misunderstanding of two unrelated comments." Julianne's mother says she's proud of the respectful way her daughter handled the situation. She wrote the letter all on her own.
And it is sexism. You know, some people would comment that, we just were saying they were having fun. What's wrong with saying that? By elevating one group and purposely treating another group as if they're less than is wrong.
So much is possible now thanks to social media filters. You want flawless skin, fuller lips, how about bigger eyes or perfect hair? It's done with just a few clicks.
Let me take a selfie.
But this obsession with self-image has a name: Snapchat dysmorphia, a term coined earlier this year by a plastic surgeon. Doctors reportedly say Snapchat dysmorphia is a concern for people with a condition called body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, which is an obsession with perceived flaws in appearance. Patients with Snapchat dysmorphia look for plastic surgery options to look like the filtered version of themselves. Health.com reported that recent data shows 55% of surgeons report that patients are looking for plastic surgery to improve the way they look in social media selfies. That's up 42% from 2015.
Well, the lack of affordable housing is forcing more Americans to live out of their cars. A recent study found the number of people residing in their vehicles surged by 46% over the past year. The problem is more prominent in urban areas, with expensive housing markets fueling the change. However, the practice is illegal in many U.S. cities. A recent survey by the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty found prohibitions against vehicle residency have more than doubled over the last decade.
Whistleblowers have reportedly come forward revealing Google is developing a censored version of its search engine in China, with plans to relaunch it soon. Google shut down the search engine in 2010, citing government attempts to limit free speech on the web. It was an attempt to protest government censorship and online hacking, because the country reportedly censored certain websites, including ones about the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre and ones with references to anti-communism and dissidents. Google's new project, named Dragonfly, has been getting fine-tuned since the beginning of 2017, and according to The Intercept, it will blacklist websites and censor search terms about human rights, democracy, religion, and peaceful protest. Amnesty International is voicing its concerns, saying if Google accepts China's censorship terms, it would be a dark day for internet freedom.
Remember what Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg told a Senate hearing back in April?
There is certain content that clearly we do not allow. Right, hate speech, terrorist content, nudity, anything that makes people feel unsafe in the community. From that perspective, that's why we generally try to refer to what we do as a platform for all ideas.
A platform for all ideas, really? Over the past few months, Facebook and other tech giants have given us ample reason to doubt that proclamation. The latest example started early yesterday morning, when Apple pulled several podcasts associated with the controversial and often incendiary Alex Jones from the iTunes store. Facebook followed suit, unpublishing 4 of Jones' pages, claiming the videos on those pages violate that hate speech policy. Hours later, YouTube decided it wasn't going to miss out on all that censorship fun, and YouTube suspended the Alex Jones channel with its 2.4 million subscribers. Oh, it's easy to dismiss concerns about big tech's actions, all coordinated, it seems, to shut down Jones, because, of course, he's the media's poster child for conspiracy theories. But this isn't about Alex Jones. This is about freedom and our access to information from the sources we as individuals trust and like. If big tech can control the information flow, then they can also perhaps even influence the outcome of the midterms and even future presidential elections.
Essentially, Alex Jones has been deleted, digitally deplatformed from these websites. You wonder if he'll have any influence going forward, because these private companies do have an incredible amount of control over the internet.
And that's the point. Controlling who has a voice and who doesn't on these monster platforms is tantamount to limiting speech. And as you'll see in a moment, it's also viewpoint discrimination. Back in February, Facebook launched a new algorithm that would cause top conservative pages to see a dramatic drop in traffic. Next, it was YouTube, who let conservative influencers build up an audience for years, only to end up limiting their channels, temporarily demonetizing them, with no warning at all. This has happened to conservative commentators like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis
they all
Prager.
laughed in the beginning. Now it's
For many on the
them.
left, the view seems to have become that if you can't beat them, prevent them from speaking. Just look at what's happened to conservative speakers on college campuses. And after liberal radio hosts flopped on Air America, remember them? Well, some Democrats sought to revive the fairness doctrine to snuff out conservative talk radio. Thankfully, that went nowhere. But now they've moved on to the internet and squelching political speech there. A leaked proposal circulating among Senate Democrats outlines a detailed plan to take over the internet by regulating digital platforms and purging content they deem harmful or inaccurate. In other words, information they don't like. It would require social media users to be tracked and labeled according to how reasonable their content is deemed to be. Democrat Senator Chris Murphy even hinted at this yesterday, tweeting, "InfoWars is the tip of a giant iceberg of hate and lies that uses sites like Facebook and YouTube to tear our nation apart. These companies must do more than take down one website. The survival of our democracy depends on it." How dramatic.
Your democracy,
Translation,
sorry,
the
Republic.
survival of the
I'm a
Democratic Party depends on it. There's an old saying in TV and radio that content is king. Same goes for the internet. If they can shut down political speech on the grounds that it's hateful, you have to ask, where does this end?
Pretty much, right?
With the illegal alien coming in very sadly from Mexico, and you saw what happened to that incredible, beautiful young woman. Should have never happened. Illegally in our country. We've had a huge impact, but the laws are so bad. The immigration laws are such a disgrace.
That was the president just moments ago. For the last month, Iowans have searched and prayed for a missing college student, Molly Tibbetts. Today, tragically, her body was discovered. We say their suspect is immigrant who led them to the box of the cornfield, they say. Fox National correspondent Matt Finn is in Iowa for us tonight with details. Matt? Tucker, Molly Tippett's body was found in a cornfield not far from where I'm standing, and police say 24-year-old Christian Rivera has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of 20-year-old Molly Tibbetts. Authorities say Rivera has been in this country illegally, and tonight we're working to learn a little bit more about Rivera's background. So far, we have learned that ICE has placed a detainer on Rivera and say that he is here from Mexico. Here's one of the lead investigators giving us a little more details on Christian Rivera.
We have confirmed with Homeland Security investigations that he is an illegal alien, and we believe he has been in this area now for 4 to 7 years.
Investigators say Rivera confessed that on July 18th, the day that Molly Tibbetts went missing, he approached her and followed her while she was out on her jog. She spotted him and said, "Leave me alone, I'm going to call police," and took out her cell phone. Rivera told police he continued to follow her and then blacked out and doesn't remember what happened after that. And he came to in a rural area not far from here. Authorities say this morning Rivera led them to a remote location about 13 miles from Molly's hometown, which is Brooklyn, Iowa. And that is where they found what they believe is the body of Molly Tibbetts. Authorities say it was a surveillance video submitted to them that showed Molly jogging and then Rivera's black Malibu car. That's how they were able to track down Rivera. Police tonight have not revealed the manner of Molly's death. Police say Rivera did see Molly prior to the day that he allegedly murdered her on July 18th. It's not clear how often he saw her, but police are going to also clarify for us in the coming days whether he may have been stalking her. Molly Tibbetts was set to return to the University of Iowa as a sophomore this year. Her father, Rob Tibbetts, was on the ground here for 30 days pleading for information, leading to the arrest or conviction of anyone involved in the disappearance of his daughter. He even went to the university, or he even went to the Iowa State Fair to hand out flyers begging for information. And after 30 plus days, he has now learned that his daughter has been found dead. Tucker.
Matt Finn, Forest in Iowa. Thank you, Matt. Well, as with the Kate Steinle case, it looks like a young American might still be alive if the country were simply willing to enforce its own federal laws. Luis Miranda is a former DNC communications director, and he joins us tonight. Luis, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker. It's good to be on.
So the line that the rest of us are kind of forced to accept is that all immigrants are great people, better than us, in fact, and that if we suspect otherwise, we're bad people. If we point to evidence proving otherwise, then we're flat-out bigots and we should be quiet. Why don't Americans have a right to police their own borders and say, if you're not here legally, you have to leave now? Why don't we have that right?
Well, Tucker, I'm really glad that you're giving us the opportunity to have this discussion because I think Democrats, Republicans, independents, immigrants, and those born here, all alike, we can agree that these heinous crimes have no place regardless of who does them. Just this week, we found out that a white man in Denver killed his wife and 2 beautiful young daughters. Also tragic, just as this young woman in Iowa whose death is a huge tragedy, and I can't imagine what her family's going through. So we can agree on that.
Here's the difference. I understand.
But there's a white man in Denver who doesn't speak for all white men.
Hey, Luis, I didn't say anything about this man's race. This story is not about race. Don't make it about race. Stop that. I was saying this is about nationality and citizenship. This man had no right to be here. That's the difference. Lots of Americans commit heinous crimes. It's terrible. We put them in prison where they should be.
Exactly.
But people shouldn't be here in the first place. He didn't have a right to be here in the first place. He should not have been here. His presence violated federal law. You and your party tell us that we're racist for wanting to enforce our own laws. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with whether we think laws are real. And some of us do. You don't.
There's more we agree on. We both agree that the immigration system is badly broken. It is horribly broken. And the people who stood in the way of fixing that have been oftentimes Republicans. And I'll give you an example of what worries me about this case.
No, you don't. This is just spin. It's really simple. I asked you a question. Please answer it. Why don't we as American citizens, you, me, our neighbors, everyone, a citizen, immigrants or not, but who is an American, have a right to say, if you don't have a right to be here, you must leave? When did we lose that right? Why don't we have that right?
And I'll tell you when. When people who own big corporations, companies, who are inviting these people to come work, oftentimes at depressed wages, because they need the labor. Look, George W. Bush,
I agree with you
Katrina, suspended wage laws and brought Mexican immigrants to help with recovery and reconstruction after Katrina.
To his eternal shame, and the unemployment rate among
to draw them.
No. Oh, no. You're absolutely right, but what you're missing is the African American unemployment rate in New Orleans remains very high. Those jobs went to foreigners. They didn't help the Americans who need the help in New Orleans. And I can give you You're right. I agree. To his eternal shame. It's one of the reasons he has a lot to be ashamed of from his 8 years as president. That's one of the main things to be ashamed of. But I have still a simple question. You and I agree on that. So why don't we say to employers, you must verify the legal status of your employees, and if you can't employ them. And if someone's got a fake ID, that's a felony.
One of the things we tried to do under the Obama administration was to expand E-Verify. No, actually, that was part of the immigration bill that we put forward in 2013. Yes, it was. It was absolutely something that we always included.
Democrats are totally against it now, totally, because they take money from these employers that rely on the cheap labor you just mentioned.
Included it, and it included border security. It included verification. Absolutely, absolutely. That's always been.
Why right now? But it's not true. Democrats right now ask members of the Senate, the 40-odd Democrats in the Senate, are you for universally E-Verify? If you can't prove that your employees are legally in this country, you can't employ them. Are they for that? You can't get a
during the
majority
Obama
to say that right now, and you know that.
We set off drones
but I'm sorry, it's
to fly
2018
from Texas
right
to
now.
California. We added border patrol agents. We agree that we need a safe and orderly border.
It didn't work.
What the disagreement here is how do you use your resources? And the problem that I have right now is that we have immigration agents chasing down moms taking their kids to school instead of looking for real criminals.
It's just
like the
silly.
one that
It's just
you
silly.
targeted at the beginning of this.
Here was a real criminal, and if we eliminate ICE, as Democrats are calling for, then how do we police our immigration laws? We can't. You really represent a party that would like to eliminate immigration enforcement.
What I think is important is that as long as Trump and other Republicans keep politicizing immigration enforcement, it turns into this kind of debate that takes away from the reality that we need a safe and secure border. We need someone who is actually stopping the flow of illegal guns and drugs north and bulk cash south. We did that during the Obama administration.
I'm sorry. This is disingenuous.
So we're both in agreement in
that. The country's flooded with
in
heroin from Mexico.
In that.
Yeah, okay.
We are both in agreement on that. But when you politicize it and you force law enforcement agents to go chase a mom going to school, taking her kids there, and raiding factories.
Right.
Now, this video comes with a trigger warning. In it, you will see a white woman telling a group of people of color to be quiet so she can white-splain to them. Please have any small children cover their ears. In fact, you should probably cover your own, too. Watch this.
For a long time, we've been fighting the fight for the Dreamers. My Do you want to hear an answer, or do you just want to shout? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. You do not. You don't know what you're talking about.
The revolution always consumes itself. Now, why were those people so mad at Pelosi? Well, they're furious that she's negotiating with the president to protect DACA beneficiaries from being deported. Instead, they want a total and immediate amnesty for all 11 million, maybe 15 million, no one really knows, illegal immigrants currently in this country. Avan Seha is an illegal immigrant. He's the founder of Undocumedia. He joins us tonight. Avan, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Tucker. I am undocumented, a DACA beneficiary, and actually born a crime when I was immigrating here at 9 months old.
Huh. So I guess what I find so striking about that video and about a lot of other things that I've seen in the past few weeks is the lack of gratitude and the hostility from people who are really getting a pretty good deal from the United States, apparently. People who are here illegally, breaking U.S. law, benefiting in a lot of ways from U.S. society, which is the richest in the world, the most orderly, the cleanest, the fairest, and yet seem hostile toward the United States. I never hear a single person say, you know what, thank you. Why not, I wonder?
I believe that undocumented immigrants, DACA recipients, are simply reacting to what's continuing to be done over years, and that is they're talking about us, but they're not talking with us. They're not including us in the conversations, and this is something that's going to be addressed. Both parties will be held accountable. People have something to refer to, records, to indicate how promising these agreements can be, and that's voting record. We're going to be holding people on both sides of the party who at some point may have voted against us, and that's all we have. That's the only premise we have.
Hold on. Wait, slow down. You're issuing a threat, and I want to understand what that threat means. You're saying is an illegal here. You're not a U.S. citizen. You're saying you and other non-U.S. citizens are going to hold U.S. citizens accountable for not being nice enough to non-U.S. citizens? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that these elected officials are there to represent all constituents, including undocumented immigrants that live in these communities. And although we do not vote them in directly, we do take great part in our community and also ask to be represented. We are paying taxes, we are contributing to the community, and we just ask for representation.
Okay, blah, blah, blah.
No, what you just, and by the way, I've always been very pro-immigrant and am in some ways still, and pro-immigration actually. You're making me very anti-immigration by what you're saying right now, because of its tone, but also because of the threat you just issued to people who don't see it your way. You're not...
All right, ready to be disturbed? Here you go.
And they want to use these political attacks and these trials to publish news stories and to drum up a bunch of hype that this means Trump is going down, even though it means nothing of the sort.
Where is it?
Not even close. And I just think about my co-host Roger Stone, who is certainly going to be next on their list. And what will Trump do about all of this political targeting, which is totally illegal?
Here we go.
Big deal over Michael Cohen's plea deal that they're supposedly going to air on live television. And then you have Manafort's jury reaching a verdict on 8 charges, no decision on 10 others, and then there's more charges and trials coming for Manafort as well. But this is honestly not a big deal in the general consensus of things, other than the fact that you have out of control bureaucracies and the heads of such bureaucracies, and an out of control Mueller probe that is now targeting people for a political agenda, and are totally rogue. And so now anyone that's associated with Trump or the Trump campaign is a target of the Mueller probe, and they could end up doing jail time. And you could say, well, they had some crimes there. Maybe this is the right thing. Well, how come Rick Gates and Tony Podesta get immunity when they testify for the same crap that they're trying to pin on Cohen and Manafort? Because it's 100% political. And they want to use these political attacks and these trials to publish news stories and to drum up a bunch of hype that this means Trump is going down, even though it means nothing of the sort, not even close. And I just think about my co-host Roger Stone, who is certainly going to be next on their list. And what will Trump do about all of this political targeting, which is totally illegal? So we'll talk to Roger Stone about that in the second hour. Again, I probably am going to open up the phone line at some point today and just see what everybody thinks the final conclusion to all of this madness is. There's another example. All of this political targeting by lawmakers and by these bureaucracies in our country to create fake news headlines, to create a chilling effect, and I guess at the end of the day, hoping it'll somehow get Trump out of office. But I'll digress on that for now. We'll talk with Roger Stone about that in the second hour. Leo Zagami joins me now from leozagami.com, and he's an expert on all things Vatican, and also gives us good updates on Italian politics as well. But today, I wanted to get Leo on to hear his opinion on Pope Francis's, I guess it was a memo or whatever they want to call it, a press release, a statement. But Pope Francis released a, we'll say, statement over the weekend, I think it was Sunday, condemning sexual abuse inside the Catholic Church. Now, it's interesting, Leo, that he does this now, obviously with the Pennsylvania story, the story in Chile, but there have been stories like that breaking for a while. In fact, there was one right in the Vatican, right there under his nose, that broke with some of his fellow, I think it was cardinals and archbishops up in there with some gay orgy going on. It was a couple months ago that broke. So what do you make of Pope Francis's statement And why do you think he chose to make the statement now?
But this is not a statement. It's actually a letter to the people of God. And it's very lengthy, so it's more than a statement. I think it's quite a long one. But he had to do it. He was forced to do it by the criticism that he's getting left, right, and center regarding his previous positions. And also, there is a big problem here. Some of the people who are even involved in this report issued by the Pennsylvania Grand Jury are going to participate with great controversy to the World Meeting of Families in Ireland. And there is a particular controversy surrounding Cardinal Buell, who we know is also a good friend of Obama. And Cardinal Buell has enabled priest William P. O'Malley, to be precise, who died, I think, in 2008, to actually return to active ministry in 1998, despite the allegations of abuse. And since then, there were, I think, 6 people that were assaulted after his reinstallation by Cardinal Buell. And he's one of the people who should not participate to this World Family Day if the Catholic Church had any sense. I mean, then we have, of course, another bishop who is being criticized, who is Oscar Maradiaga of Honduras, because he also protected another character called Bishop Pineda, also involved in pedophilia and also in using in illegitimate ways his money to maintain his lovers. So all this is, of course, pushing the Pope to do something. And this letter that, of course, he says, we have failed with the little ones. Well, of course he has failed, but he's one of the people who is encouraging this failure, because a lot of these people have been endorsed by Pope Francis. I mean, when Pope Francis arrived in Washington, it was Cardinal Buell who went to greet him with Obama. I mean, so this is the situation today of the Catholic Church, a church represented by pedophiles, and Cardinal Buell is being criticized so much that a lot of Christian Catholic critics are saying, even from Catholic magazines, to resign, at least to give a strong sign that he's in some way shocked by what is happening. But this is not the only news of the day. We have a Jesuit who is born in Pennsylvania and who is becoming very controversial. His name is James Martin. He's a Jesuit, also known as Jim Martin. And basically, this Jesuit is a sponsor and an advocate of the LGBT community. And he's going to be talking in Ireland. So, I mean, this guy is being raised in Pennsylvania amongst all these pedophiles, and the whole thing of the Pope also choosing him as one of his spokesperson also for this.
So they'll both be speaking at that event that you were telling us about last time you were on here, coming up in Ireland, where there's actually been a lot of backlash about what's been going on in the Catholic Church. So it's an interesting thing for them to be going to Ireland. But does it seem to you, I mean, you know the history better than I do with this, and I'm just recalling, it seems like in the 90s was the first time it really started to hit mainstream news about pedophile priests and priests sexually abusing kids, and it kind of, it was kind of more of a shock thing where it was like, whoa, okay, now we know about it, okay, and everybody kind of, relaxed, back to sleep, oh, yeah, okay, they got rid of the pedophiles, right. Well, now it's just like, it seems like every other month there's breaking news out of the Catholic Church, pedophiles here, gay orgies here, sexual abuse here, rampant sexual abuse over here. So it seems like it's for the first time now, for whatever reason, it's actually sticking to the Catholic Church, and that's why Pope Francis had to make that declaration, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, from my research, the Catholic Church actively encouraged the myth of the satanic ritual abuse in the 80s to cover up what was happening in the church. And this went on until the 90s. So they actually actively encouraged encouraged this disinformation that was blaming Satanists from alleged satanic covens on crimes they were actually perpetrating themselves within the Catholic Church. And they have been covering up for all these crimes, as the report of the grand jury demonstrates in a very vast way, actually in a very unprecedented way. So the Catholic Church seems to have dedicated itself really to satanic ritual with these children that have been abused in a way that is of course typical of satanic covens.
You know, you would think with all of this going on and so much pedophilia and everything that there would be a serious investigation of the Catholic Church and even, I don't know, maybe a raid of the Vatican? I mean, seriously, this is out of control. I've decided, as if anyone's going to listen to me, but I've decided I think it's actually time for the Vatican to be maybe raided. Now, I don't know who I would trust to actually go in there and retrieve all the relics and the secret history and the secret scrolls and everything they're hiding from us. But obviously, I mean, my guess is Leo Zagami. He's been covering this for so long, folks. Okay, and he documents all of it at leozagami.com. But I mean, Leo, I don't really think it's that outrageous. I mean, we're talking about now, over the course of 3 decades, thousands of accounts of child sexual abuse. Okay, I mean, is it? I shouldn't feel like I'm that radical or that outrageous to say it's time for someone to raid the Vatican. I mean, we're talking about an institution that has had thousands and thousands of cases of child sexual abuse within its community. I mean, am I out of control here, or is that not called for?
No, I think actually you will be surprised what's going to happen in the next few months, because just today I spoke with somebody who told me that probably there will be an international tribunal that in some way will bring this whole case in front of the Pope in a shocking and provocatory style. We're going to see what happens in the next few months. In any case...
But I don't trust the Pope. I don't trust the Pope. The Pope needs to be in front of that tribunal. The Pope needs to be the one being tried here.
That's what I said to them also. But, I mean, of course they want to provoke something, and they want the attention of the media and this decision they made. There is various people involved, judges, people of high profile. There is a liberal theologian from Philadelphia, Massimo Fagioli, who said what Napoleon and Stalin couldn't do, the hierarchy of the church itself did. I mean, the situation is truly unprecedented. So the Pope's letter to the Catholics worldwide, expressing this shame, this repentance over the sexual abuse of children by priests, is obviously following months of escalating scandals in several countries worldwide. We have seen Australia, we have seen what is happening in Ireland, and of course also in the United States of America. And there is many people who are exhorting also the Italian bishops to go rather deep in their own investigations, because there is a big cover-up going on also here in Italy on many scandals, even if certain scandals surface from time to time. We have seen that priest not so long ago caught in front of a supermarket with a little girl, and it was in the newspapers worldwide. So the Catholic Church is not protected anymore like it used to be, but it still has the possibility of using certain politicians, certain military, and others who are part of the various knighthoods of the Vatican and of the various secret societies that operate with the Vatican. And these knighthoods, like the Knighthood of the Holy Sepulchre or the Knights of Malta, the military, the SMOM, and all these are part of groups of power that, of course, have provided protection for the Vatican. But this protection is failing now that Donald J. Trump is in power, because this investigation from the grand jury took really momentum after the election of Donald J. Trump in 2016. And from there on, in the Trump era, it managed to get certain people that probably are good people in the FBI, not all people in the FBI are bad people, to participate in this investigation by the Pennsylvania grand jury that came up with all these results, because the Pope is forced to admit this now. I mean, he's being literally forced, and it's been thanks to Donald Trump that we're seeing this great change.
And, again, the recent story is the one in Pennsylvania where they're giving the young boys gold necklaces so the other priests know which ones they can, take advantage of and which ones they can't. You had the case in Chile. But these are just two cases. I mean, there's been hundreds of these cases breaking. There was some school, I think it was in Britain, I don't remember, some old school where they found a bunch of tortured children in a graveyard behind the old school. And it was a Catholic school.
Even in this report by the grand jury, there is children who are made to wash their mouth with holy water after they give oral sex to priests. There is all kinds of deprivation. I think that the Catholic Church has no moral high ground anymore to talk, to anybody. And the fact that they still have a powerful lobby that influences Washington, of course, this might be a matter of controversy in the next few months. And that's why they want Trump out of office as soon as possible, because they need to protect the Catholic Church from complete bankruptcy in the United States of America.
Yeah, and I think, too, you're looking at a situation where the Catholic Church just, flat out needs a reformation. Not to say that the individual Catholic worshipers in America or Italy or wherever they may be are the problem. It's the institution itself. It's the people inside the institution. It's the priests that are getting caught raping children and all of these gruesome stories we're hearing. And I'm starting to see people actually float this idea out there seriously, because I didn't see Pope Francis, they say, we're going to find out about this. We're going to stop it. Okay, yeah, right. What are solutions they're offering? I'm hearing people say maybe it's time to let priests get married. Is that something that the Vatican would ever take seriously?
Something that up until 1,000 years ago the Vatican took seriously. After, they wanted to simply retain the properties, and of course, having married the clergy was a negative for their own property development. So it wasn't anything to do with faith here. It was to do with their own interest to keep the clergy in custody. Of course, there has been always a minority of spiritual leaders, of priests, but true priests, with the heart in the right place, with the spirit in the right place, with Jesus Christ. These people, of course, practice this castity in a holy way. But they are, as I said also previously in other shows, a minority. And they will always be a minority. So the majority of priests need to marry, need to have an ordinary life. Otherwise, we are basically giving the church in the hands of these pedophiles, of these perverted individuals that don't live their sexuality in a normal way. And we have to also understand that in this clergy abuse case is coming up also this twisted way of acting with these victims that is basically demonstrating the satanic nature of it, and the fact that Malachi Martin once said this culminates in the fallen angel rites with the rape of male children. And we see that in this report, this happens all over the place. This abuse also with holy symbols of these victims and the way they are sodomized is all part of a satanic degeneration. There has been a satanic infiltration of the Catholic Church, and this satanic infiltration is giving us these results. So Pope Francis can't really change anything because he himself is hostage of the situation.
Yeah, and it really is a dire situation that's been going on at the Vatican for a long time. I just wish people knew about how messed up that situation really was, and just all the secrets, all the artifacts, all the relics that they've been hiding from humans on Earth. It's a total travesty. Leo Zagami, thank you so much for joining us. LeoZagami.com is where you can find his work.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, there goes Leo. All right, Roger Stone is going to join me in the next hour. Ladies and gentlemen, the t-shirt I'm wearing is available at InfoWarsStore.com for $14.95. It's the InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt. It's my favorite t-shirt from InfoWarsStore.com. And with coupon code WARROOM, it's $14.95. With coupon code WARROOM, you heard me right, this t-shirt would be $30 at any retail store. We've got it at InfoWarsStore.com right now for $14.95 with coupon code WARROOM. Just look at Marcos Morales. I mean, come on. If he's wearing the shirt, you know it's cool. I mean, if I'm wearing it, you're like, well, I'm not so sure. But if Marcos Morales is wearing it, then you're good to go. So it's got the Marcos Morales seal of approval. It's got the Roger Stone seal of approval. It's got the InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt. And it's $14.95 with coupon code WARROOM. That's a flat rate. I'm telling you, you cannot get a quality t-shirt like this for $14.95. Free shipping at InfoWarsStore.com right now. So with coupon code WARROOM, get the InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt for $14.95. Final month. As soon as the calendar turns and it's September, coupon code WARROOM to get $5 off the InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt will no longer be possible. So get to InfoWarsStore.com, get your InfoWars Hexagon logo t-shirt, $14.95 with coupon code WARROOM before the calendar changes.
We need your support more than ever. They're literally trying to shut us down every day by this point. So please support us by getting the products at InfoWarsStore.com, where we have Super Silver Wound Gel Bullet Points. This is new technology that's an advanced patented technology that's forever changed the colloidal nano-silver market. There's been extensive research in silver salt technology, which includes 20-plus safety reports, test series, as well as the first ever double-blind FDA-cleared human ingestion toxicity study done on any silver product. Formula is 24 parts per million. The 32 parts per million version is FDA-cleared as a prescription medical device.
Sorry.
It's one of the only OTC
Alright, I'm gonna
products
cut
with
this.
direct
Sorry,
against
guys.
MRSA and VRE, two of the most deadly forms of bacteria that can cause infection.